Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second of the series, Frank Talk With. This talk show is organized by Wish BME Network, a charity that supports African Caribbean kidney disease and transplant patients. We provide services like advocacy, benefits, applications and appeals, employment advice and support, campaign for blood and organ donation, etc. These types of activities are part of what we do to provide advice and support for our service users. Every couple of weeks, we discuss a hot topic and we bring on guests who will speak frankly and honestly about the issue. This week, our topic is COVID-19, the vaccine and lockdown. This has been and still is the topic of every conversation within the African Caribbean community. I have attended different webinars and events organized to educate and bring awareness about the vaccine. One thing I noticed was the discussion centered around the adults in our community, whether with negative or positive views about the issue. Well, everyone has a right to their opinion. However, we forget one category of people, our youths, our leaders of tomorrow. Nobody has thought to ask their opinion on the current issues. However, they do have opinions about what is going on. They are equally affected. So today, we're going to be listening to them in a no-holds-barred conversation about COVID-19, the vaccine, and lockdown. Before we start, I would like to introduce my co-host, Dr. Theo Asumu. He is a consultant in trauma and orthopedic surgery at Pennine Acute Hospitals NHS Trust. His area of specialty is knee surgery. He's currently the clinical director in charge of orthopedic trauma and surgery. He's an avid runner. I'll pass over to him now. Welcome, Theo, and thank you for doing this today.
Thank you very much, Hilaria. So I hope you can hear me okay?
Yes, can hear you.
Yes. Thank you very much. And I extend a thank to our speakers, the young people who've given up their time on a Saturday afternoon to share their views on the very topical issue of COVID-19, the vaccine and lockdown. Now, as Hilary mentioned, there's been a lot of information over the past 12 months about this pandemic, which has taken by surprise and has consumed everything we do and pretty much dictates how we live our lives now. A lot of the information and the opinions that have been sought have been from the point of view of, older adults in the community, and perhaps young people. The views of children and young people haven't been sought. By the very nature of the pandemic and coronavirus itself, it is something that has had an adverse effect in terms of mortality on the much older people in the population. But in terms of quality of life, in terms of future, in terms of dealing with COVID, in terms of what happens post-COVID, do things go back to normal? Do things not go back to normal? In terms of education, young people, I think, have been disproportionately affected. And I think it's only right that we try and find out from their point of view how we are dealing with the COVID crisis. Is there something which we are missing? Is there, are they coping, with social isolation, etc.? And these are the themes I'll be hoping to explore over the next hour and a bit. We have 5 speakers today, five teenagers who will be sharing their views on those topics I've outlined. First of all, I think I'll throw the floor open to Roxanne and ask Roxanne to share her views on where do you get your information from about COVID-19? That's quite important. And before I hand over to Roxanne, just to tell you that Roxanne is 18. She lives with her parents and an older brother in Manchester. She is currently in year 13 and was to be writing her A-level exams this year. Normally, she would spend her free time running with her dad. And significantly, whilst in school, she also tutors other young children. Roxanne says that the most significant thing about lockdown has been not being able to socialize with extended family and friends. And after lockdown, she's looking forward to especially going back to eat out at restaurants. So I'll start with you, Roxanne. Um, where do you get your information from about COVID-19?
Most of my information comes from social media because that's, as a young person, that's where I spend most of my time. But usually social media does have some reliable sources, some aren't very reliable. So you should, I usually do go on the internet on the BBC or Daily Mail or Telegraph to see if most of the facts are true. So yeah, mostly social media.
Okay. So I think we've all it's almost kind of stereotypical that people in their teens will access social media a lot more than perhaps people who are older than them. So I'll bring Toby in at this stage, and Toby is in year 12. He lives at home with his mom in Winnersh, which is near Reading. He has a younger brother, and he's normally quite a social person by all accounts. He spends time hanging around with his mates. He captains his local basketball team. Lockdown has been difficult because of inability to socialize. And after lockdown, he's really looking forward to playing basketball. So I'll ask you the same question, Toby. Where do you think, where are you getting your information about COVID-19 from?
Same as what Roxy said. A lot of the news, social media outlets, just checking the news and seeing what's happening, and just typing in, COVID into the news, and a whole little search bar pops up, breaking it down into sections about the school, the vaccine, and that sort of stuff. So that's where I get my information, really.
Is there maybe? Is that how you would have preferred it to be if you were designing information to go out to people your age? Does that fit the bill?
I think it's pretty efficient. Whereas what I thought was going to be, very like mashed up together, but as set out, so it's pretty efficient, so you can get what you want pretty fast. So yeah, I think they did well with that.
Okay. So I'll go on to Aliu. So in terms of information about COVID-19, I don't know if anybody has approached you specifically, maybe as part of a focus group, maybe in school, maybe in the community, to seek your views on COVID-19.
I think Ali is having technical difficulties because he's just dropped out. So if you just move that question to probably Michaela.
Okay. So
log in now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Aliu is back in, yeah.
Yeah. No, I've not been approached by anybody in particular asking my views on the pandemic or my experiences or anything like that.
So if this were to be, I know it's not a focus group, if I were to ask you to have some input into how information about COVID-19, vaccination, the importance of lockdown, etc., is disseminated to people your age. I get my news of the BBC at 6 o'clock. How do you think is best to have that information, transmitted to people like yourself?
I think predominantly with people our age, we use social media as our main means of communication. So most of the news that I will gain, I'll get it from Twitter or another social media site. So if you wanted to target people younger, social media would be the best method of communication, because people my age, we don't really watch the news as much or read newspapers or that stuff.
Okay, I'll go on to Michaela. And Michaela, what I want your views on is whether you think social media is reliable, and how you go about deciding which sites you you access your information from. And I guess there are two strands to that. There are those that may pop up in your feed, and there are those that you may actively go searching for because you're concerned about perhaps the new variant or something like that, and you go and search for them. But how reliable do you find social media as a way of keeping up to date with COVID-19?
Personally, I find it quite reliable because I mean, every time you just go on your phone, there's all these newest updates, and I think like we all know by now like what is reliable. So if we want to look into something, then we would just go on to BBC. Like I mean, we all know from our parents and our elders like what's more professional, and social media is kind of just a shortcut to see what's going on, and yeah, really.
Okay, so Jean-Paul, if you come across some information on COVID-19 in social media, let's say a video which makes certain claims by someone who looks fairly official, how do you go about investigating to see whether or not, or do you just take that at face value? Somebody pops up on the video saying, well, if you have 2 onions a day, you will never get COVID. I mean, how do you, or do you discard that totally, which is another way of looking at things?
Yeah, I think personally for me, I sort of, if I'm going down social media and I do see these sort of claims going on, I will check like a more what's the word? A more respectable news source like the BBC. I normally do use the BBC to sort of get the news and what's going on. I don't really trust a lot of these things that pop up on social media. So yeah, I look more to news sources rather than social media.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll stay with you, Jean-Paul. I mean, at the beginning, the thing about COVID is that nobody knows that much about COVID, but we all know everything about COVID, and everybody's an expert, and really no one is an expert because we're learning all the time. At the beginning of the pandemic, we actually actively discouraged from wearing masks because we're told it wasn't of any value, and then we're told afterwards that masks are not mandatory indoors. And there's been that issue about consistent messaging. How much do you trust the information that comes out from the government in terms of schools are safe to go to, schools are not safe to go to? Don't wear a mask, wear a mask. You need 2 doses of the vaccine, you can do it 1. Does that create any conflict with you?
I think throughout the whole pandemic that's been going on for almost a year now, I think the government have been really, really, really unclear on what they want us to do, and in terms of guidelines and things. Obviously, things are changing and they are learning things as they go along. But I feel like they could be more clear in what their goal is, which is essentially to stop the pandemic, or at least slow down the rate at which infections are going. And yeah, I just think they've just been really unclear the whole time. Yeah.
Roxanne, how much weight would you put to an influencer on social media that came out with a message, a public health message? And it's quite important I ask this because in terms of the vaccination, the government have just engaged two elderly gentlemen, Elton John and the actor and Michael Caine. Okay, and for me, those are influencers, but not in the traditional way. So, how much weight do you put to an influencer coming out and telling you about, reinforcing a message that's being pushed out by the government?
I would say that let's just say there are a lot of influencers I see on Instagram pushing the message to stay at home, be safe, wear a mask, and maintain social distancing. And I respect that a lot because those are the people we look up to. It's pretty much in the name, they're influencers. They influence young children, and they spread this idea of trying to keep safe and helping everyone out, and trying to be a team player. So with them having that idea, it also encourages children or just young people in general to have that a similar, if not the exact same idea, because that's who we look up to for trends or things we find cool. Or so yeah, I think it's very important for influencers to jump on this narrative and spread the message to keep safe during these times.
So just a quick follow-up from that. Has there been any message that you have had first from an influencer rather than from the government and then reinforced by the influencer? Has there been anything that's come to you from an influencer first and then you've thought, oh my goodness, that sounds a good idea, and then it's been validated afterwards because that's actually the government message?
Personally, no. I've only heard things where the government have said, oh, we encourage influencers to spread the message. So I've usually heard it from the government first, and then influencers taking upon themselves to help out and really spread the message more.
Am I allowed to jump in and just...
Yeah, please.
I'm sorry, Roxana, I'm going to have to disagree with that point. I think influencers, I think some influencers are helpful. I think it depends on the influencers. If you look at a lot of the Love Island crew, a lot of them have been going to Dubai during this lockdown, and I think that was a really, really silly thing of them to do, especially when the government were stay at home, especially for this one, and cases were up at something ridiculous, like over 50,000 cases, and people were really, really struggling with mental health and lots of different issues. And you have them who have just gone over to Dubai and say that it's for essential work. When in fact they're essentially just going on holiday. And I think that it's just a bit I feel like some influencers have been good in for example, again, going to go back to a Love Island person, Dr. Alex George. He's on the front lines doing working in COVID wards and things like that, whereas you've got the others who are just again going on holiday to Dubai and saying it's essential work, which I really don't think it is. And I don't think their photos of them on nice hot sunny beaches are really sort of giving making, as they say, it's giving us influencing us, essentially giving us any happy thoughts, because we can't do that. We're at home, we're stuck at home.
So Michaela, I can see you nodding to that. That seems to resonate with you. What are your views?
He basically said it all. Every time we're all just stuck at home, and then with social media, the only thing we have to use, and then we're constantly seeing all these influencers traveling to Dubai, and I'm just thinking, come on now, what are you doing? So yeah, I'm sure we're all wise enough to know it's not right. But obviously there obviously is the risk of them influencing people. Okay, I guess it is fine to just travel around. We're all locked in and we need a break. So yeah, but again, it is dangerous.
Okay. I'm gonna come on to you now, Liu. Just by means of background, Aliu is 17. He lives in Manchester. He has a younger brother, and he's in year 13. He would normally spend his free time socializing, and quite interestingly, he's a maths and English tutor for children aged 5 to 16. And not just an informal tutor; it's a formal remunerated role. And he's been able to carry on with that through lockdown. And for you, the most significant thing about lockdown, as been learning how not to let pressure and uncertainty overcome him. And after lockdown, he's looking to make some lasting memories before going on to university. I wanted to get your views, Ali, about the clarity of the message that's coming out about lockdown. And there's been a shift from the first lockdown, stay at home, protect the NHS, save lives. And then we went on to, I think we're currently on hands, face, and space. I think there was something else in between them. And then there was the rule of 6. And then there was the bubble and the extended bubble. Are you clear in your mind what the current lockdown rules are? Is the same nationally in England?
Currently, no, because the government are sending a lot of mixed messages to us. Because first they're saying stay at home, then they're saying rule of 6, then they're saying eat out to help out. And then when things go wrong, they're ultimately blaming us, the youth, the young people, for their shortcomings. Because they're setting rules and expecting us to follow the rules. And then when we're following those same rules, we're the ones having the blame put on us. Young people are spreading the virus. Young people are being reckless. Young people are being careless. When we're simply doing what's being told. So I think they need more clarity in what they're telling us, and they need to stick to what they say instead of constantly flipping the message.
So I mean, I'll invite everyone now to kind of, just open your mics. And how do you think more effective messaging about, be it vaccines, be it lockdown, and being that we're in a dynamic situation, so what is the message today won't be the message in 2 weeks' time, that's for certain. How do you think that message best come to people like yourselves? Maybe I pick on you, Toby. But everyone else, please come in.
Well, I think what the best thing to do would be, try give a more clear, structured message. Because I feel like with a lot of these, when Boris comes onto the TV to talk, it's very unclear, especially about us, students, about grades. And we all know what happened last year with this whole predicted grades. Then we went back, and then we just need a clear, structured message to put everyone at ease. I feel like, because I feel like we're just changing way too much. Don't wear a mask. Wear a mask. Stay at home. Come outside. Help the economy. Eat out to help out. Open up pubs again, and then take them away again, and then start blaming certain demographics. Whereas I feel like we need to. It's from the top. It just needs to change, in my opinion.
Okay. So in terms of, I mean, the age groups that we have here kind of transitioning between the end of formal secondary school and higher education. And from my memories of higher education, the university setting, campus tends to be almost a different kind of bubble where maybe different rules apply. And I'm going to just ask Michaela to spend some time telling us how lockdown works in university. And I'll tell you a bit about Michaela. Michaela is 19. She lives in her university accommodation in Portsmouth. Third of 4 children of her parents, and she's in second year at Portsmouth. Normally, she will spend free time hanging around with her mates, as usual for people of this age. And she's quite an enthusiastic gymnast. She's a grade 4 gymnast at the local gymnastics club. Well, quite importantly, Michaela says that she's had the chance to explore more of her own abilities in creating new things during lockdown. And after lockdown, she's actually looking forward to pursue some studies in business. But Michaela, you're in the thick of it. You're in halls of residence in Portsmouth. And I presume over Christmas you had experience of, being at home and in lockdown. How does lockdown work in a university campus setting?
So it just works how it works for all of us, that we shouldn't go out, and everywhere is closed, and our unis are closed as well, so everything is online. And again, a lot of uni students have been really frustrated how, and a lot of people are saying that paying $9,000 for online lessons is kind of daylight robbery. And obviously, us being young people, like what else can we do besides constantly go online and complain about it? And obviously, the government, who are not in our shoes, like they don't really know much how it's like for us. So we kind of feel like we're being ignored. So it's just quite frustrating.
In terms of the I guess it's maybe more difficult to prevent households from mixing if you are in a halls of residence. If you're maybe in privately rented accommodation, that's more like living in a city or a town. But if you're in halls of accommodation with 50 others, is it possible to prevent mixing households, etc.?
Yeah, somewhat. Obviously we have guidelines of and common areas where students mix. Obviously they're all closed now. So yeah, it's just put in a way so everyone keeps to themselves. And there's just rules around, and yeah.
The government have talked recently about extending this, rapid testing, the home testing kits, and they've been available for NHS workers for a while to test themselves at home. And I think that program was in place before the Christmas break for students to be tested on 2 occasions before going home. Do you think that kind of testing, regular rapid testing, would be useful to help ease things in university?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, the more people testing, like the more it will benefit us. And obviously, testing at home would again be more safer because we're not going out and spreading. We're slowing down the spread. And I guess if we have those people who have negative testing, then I guess they could be allowed more entry to university facilities. So yeah, that could be helpful.
Okay. Now I'm going to move on to. I'm going to ask for broad views to come in about the vaccine, and so by all means, just feel free to open your mics and join in at any stage if something particularly resonates with you. I'm going to start with you, Jean-Paul, and I'll be asking for your views on the vaccine. I'll give my views on the vaccine first. From the beginning of the pandemic, we were told at a very early stage that we needed a vaccine to get us out of this pandemic, and we seem to have successful vaccines available now. Young people are not really in the fray yet to be vaccinated, simply because it's gone by those who are supposed to be most at risk. The really elderly, those who are in care homes, those who care for those who are in care homes and cannot socially distance in their job. And it's coming down through the age categories and will eventually come to people of your age. So, what are your views about the vaccine generally?
I think for me, to be honest, I'd happily, once it gets around to us, which is, again, it's going to be quite a while, but I'd happily take the vaccine because I really want to get back to some sort of normal, where universities, gone back to normal, and just being able to see friends and things, because it's, I think lockdown is starting to take its toll on me. So I'd happily take a vaccine, and I don't really have any issues with it necessarily. Just want to get it as soon as possible.
I'll come to you, Toby. Toby, you're you're 17, and it's kind of one of those in-between ages for the vaccines. I think one of the candidates is licensed for 16 plus, one is licensed for 18 plus. What are your views about it? Are you looking forward to it? Do you have any concerns about vaccination? Do you think you should have got it sooner?
I don't really mind about the waiting time, because obviously there are people who need it more than us, like you say, the elderly and people in care homes. I'm just happy that one was made before it got too late. So I'm happy and willing and ready to take the vaccine when it's my turn.
Okay. Michaela, you've unmuted yourself. I presume you have a view on this.
So yeah, me personally, I'm all for it. With the vaccine and everything, obviously, we need to get our lives back on track now. But personally, I also see why a lot of people are hesitant about it. Because again, personally, I think the vaccine has come quite soon, and especially with Ebola, it took 5 years to get a vaccine for it, and with this somewhat new disease, and again, going back to the government always changing rules and being unclear, and then suddenly we have a vaccine now. I mean, some people would be kind of hesitant about the reliability of it, and I've also seen some cases of people having a serious reaction to it. So yeah, I would understand why some people would be scared to try it, because it is very new for everyone, and yeah.
Okay, so Aliu, I'll come to you. Michaela has just touched on a very important point, and that is this issue of vaccine hesitancy. Some people are concerned about taking the vaccine, and the data we have currently indicates that vaccine hesitancy is significantly higher in the Black community, significantly higher in the Black community, without a doubt. And the number of people in the Black community who are qualify for vaccination currently have decided to either refuse or defer or wait a while. So I want to know two things. What are your views if you are offered the vaccine? And do you have any thoughts as to what we can do about vaccine hesitancy in the Black community?
You wanna?
I'll take Aliu first, and then okay. Oh, Aliu, yeah, go on. Yeah,
so
go on,
personally, if I was offered the vaccine, I think that I would take it, because like Michaela and Toby said, we need to try and get our lives back on track. But I can understand why some people have some anxiety about it, and why some people don't particularly trust it, because like Michaela said, it did take 5 years for them to come up with an Ebola vaccine. And also the way the government has just been sending mixed messages, there's a general level of distrust towards the government, and them suddenly coming out with a vaccine saying, oh, take the vaccine, everything's going to be better, when they've been sending mixed messages for the whole of the last year, has really made particularly people from Black backgrounds feel anxious about it. They don't know how to feel, sort of thing. So I feel like they would wait until it's more established and they know more of the side effects and the possible risks before they take it.
Yeah. Do you have any idea how there are a lot of events being put on to try and perhaps combat this vaccine hesitancy amongst all groups, which is why, like I said, the government engaged the services of Elton John and Michael Caine to go on this drive to say, get yourself vaccinated. That isn't, I can't imagine for 1 second that Michael Caine and Elton John have been engaged to encourage people from Black and ethnic minority backgrounds. That would be a rather poor choice. But do you have any ideas? And I know the problems of trust, and I know the problems of it does seem to be a rushed vaccine. Do you have any ideas how we can overcome that? How can we get more clear messaging, more information about people's fears? How can we get that out there?
I think surveying would be an effective method. So want to be able to express things. So find out what people think about the vaccine and what potential reasons are, like what the biggest main reason for them not wanting to take it would be, and then working to create a plan to tackle that. So they would need to ask a range of different people from a range of different backgrounds, but specifically work within the backgrounds that they're targeting, for example, the Black community.
Okay. Michaela, your mic is open, so I presume you have a view on how we can deal with issues of vaccine hesitancy.
Again, like he already said it all, but I'm not too sure how. I'm not too sure on that one. But a lot of people, as evil as it would sound, would kind of just sit back and wait and let a lot of people take one for the team just to see how the vaccine is treating them. And yeah, and it's still quite early days to say. And yeah.
Okay. I'll come to you, Toby. In terms of the vaccine, I'll ask you a question. How much of this do you think is a family decision as opposed to an individual decision? I.e., if you have a group of parents, let's say, who are not keen on the vaccine, how much do you think that flows down to teenagers who are maybe invited to have the vaccine, but their parents haven't had the vaccine? How do you think that plays out?
I think, there's a very serious, predicament that could happen, you know what I'm saying, with the parents and the children conflict. But at the end of the day, I think parents have, a huge say in what happens in a child's life. And, children are way more likely to, listen to their parents and gain knowledge from their parents. But at the end of the day, children, I say you have to look at what you want and do it. So if you feel safer taking the vaccine, it's all about safety. If you feel safer taking the vaccine and, you sleep better at night knowing that you feel like you have less of a chance of getting the coronavirus because you've taken the vaccine, then by all means, you should take the vaccine.
Roxanne, do you have any concerns about taking the vaccine? We have to be honest in that this is a new pharmaceutical intervention. It's been with us for less than 6 months, and we don't really know what the long-term outlook is. But against that, we have a pandemic that's causing havoc. Amongst yourself and people your age, what are the concerns that you've heard? So A, would you be willing to have a vaccine if it came to your turn? And B, what concerns do you and maybe people of your age have?
Well, I would say that if it came around to me, I would take the vaccine. However, I understand people's concerns about it. I think because what we see on social media, people's reactions with the vaccine, Apparently there's a lump that people might get on their arm. I don't think that's the worst thing that could happen to me. So I'm not completely worried about getting a lump on my arm that could go away. But I guess that's the same with any type of vaccination, like the MMR jab that people were very scared about back then. So I think there's just the same type of, uncertainty. And after the government has told us so many things that may have been right, may have been wrong, we are very unsure whether to trust them with this. Because, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. So it's kind of just not really sure how to take it.
Yeah, so there are lots of concerns about the vaccine. The current people who are having it are generally 70 and above, or clinically extremely vulnerable people. The clinically extremely vulnerable are a small proportion of those who've had the vaccine. So you've got the over 80s, over 75s, over 70s. And one of the issues that's been raised is the effect on fertility and possible child defects and pregnancy. And the cohort being vaccinated currently don't have any issues about fertility, and that's not a concern, clearly. For people in their teens, I can only assume that could conceivably be a worry. And I'm not going to ask anybody specifically, but I just want, a general view as to whether or not the possibility of, issues with DNA transformation, problems with fertility. Have you heard those concerns, and do they play on your mind at all?
I think I've heard a few sort of rumors about what the effects of taking the vaccine would be. I think at this very moment in time, I think I'm not too worried. Maybe further down the line, I might be worried about it. But I think for me personally, I would just much rather just go back to some sort of normal, because it's just been, I think, lockdown and the whole pandemic's just been it's just been an awful experience. And yeah, I don't think that it plays on my mind too much. Obviously, again, there's always going to be these sort of worries with a very, very new vaccine, but it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. So in terms of why there are concerns about possible effects on fertility, is that there's a portion of the COVID, the coronavirus, the protein sequence on the outer part of the coronavirus, that the vaccine is trained to recognize and grab onto. And part of that sequence can be seen in the placenta. Okay, it's a very, very small part, very, very small part. But I think scientists reported this, and this has, can you get, fetal loss, abortions, etc., because you've had the COVID vaccine? It's very difficult to test any new medicines on pregnant women. So pregnant women are usually excluded from any trial. But with the large numbers that have gone through the COVID vaccine trials, one byproduct has been that a number of women of childbearing age were part of the vaccination trials, got pregnant during the period they were being vaccinated. And there are no adverse effects reported so far. So that's a theoretical risk. The jury is still out as to whether or not you should have it if you're actually pregnant. Some colleges of obstetricians and gynecologists around the world advise against it in pregnancy simply because we don't know what it does. But pregnancy is one of the risk factors for having severe COVID. And so some colleges advise that if you're pregnant, you should discuss with your obstetrician and possibly consider vaccination. But I just thought I would clarify that aspect, because it's something I think that is much more relevant to young people than to the current cohort of people being vaccinated. In terms of how the vaccine has been rolled out, there's currently a push that teachers should be vaccinated because they are working in environments where they cannot socially distance, and also it will probably allow schools to be reopened with some more confidence. What do you generally feel about that? If you were to go back to school with the knowledge that you're working in kind of like a vaccinated bubble, and that allows schools and universities to open up more, do you think some priority should be given to that after I think we've pretty much vaccinated all the over 70s and possibly over 65s now. Do you think education, which has always been, schools are the last thing to be shut down, and maybe we should be looking at the teachers and possibly people your age who are in full-time education as priorities to allow society to go back to normal? I'll take a view from you, Michaela. So campus will be back to normal because everyone's vaccinated. You can do what you want to do.
Yeah, I think that would be important, because again, like younger people, like we tend to struggle more not socializing. Yeah, but of course we can't having a environment where that's very vaccinated, I guess it'll make us feel more comfortable, but again, we can't forget that just because we're younger, we're not invincible. There's still a risk there.
Yeah, that's a very important point you make. Even after being vaccinated, the current guidelines are that you should continue the hands, face, and space. Washing your hands, making sure that you don't touch your face, the social distancing, and that seems to be currently here to stay for a while, certainly for the next few months. Now, I'll come to the issue of the exams, and I think I'll focus on Roxanne and Toby and Aliu, around exam years. In my naivety, when the exams were cancelled last year, I thought back to when I wrote my GCSEs or whatever they were called in those days, and I thought, this is fantastic. I don't have to write exams. That was very, very stressful. How do you feel about being passed through end of year 11 or end of year 13 with no formal examination but awarded grades? How do you feel about that? I'll start with you, Aliu.
Initially, it made me feel pretty anxious because I was in a position where I would be entering university with the last exams that I sat being my GCSEs. And obviously that places a burden on you because you haven't had that experience in a long time, particularly when you're going to do a subject which is assessed through essays like law. But after the first lockdown and the amount of education that I had missed and how behind I felt like I was constantly having to play catch up. And if I were to sit the exams, I wouldn't do as well as I possibly hoped for myself to do. And I'll be limiting myself in that way. But also, I feel really conflicted about it as well because they haven't established a particular way that they're going to give us our grades. And they announced that exams were cancelled without telling us how they intended on grading us. They just said teacher assessed grades, whatever that's supposed to mean. So the uncertainty as well has added to the pressure, and it's added to the workload as well, because teachers have put it upon themselves to give us more assessed work in order to come to these teacher assessments. But we have no proper answer from the government, so it just makes everything more difficult and places more pressure on us.
Yeah, thank very much for that insight. Certainly, you need to give somebody a target to aim for. You know, people need a syllabus to study to, and if you tell them we're not going to examine you, you need to tell them where they need to concentrate on and what performance you'll be looking at. I'll go to Toby next, because I think you're in a similar situation, and just get your views on how you feel about not having to write exams. And there's someone in the audience, an attendee who's identified themselves as Nikki, who's a teacher, and I just wonder if we could get a viewpoint from Nikki, whether you do feel pressure when you have someone in your year, and I don't know whether you teach those years, who needs a certain grade to attend higher education of their choice. So they might need 3A stars or 3As or whatever it is now. You know that, and if your assessment doesn't match up with that, they are not going to be able to go ahead. In the old days, pre-COVID, it was easy enough, because you just told them, well, we'll prepare you as much as you can for your exams. Wish you all the best, good luck, you should be able to do it. But if you don't do it, then you know that's your performance that's being assessed. So if Nikki can give us some insights through the chat box, and I'll go on to Toby.
Well, I was a part of the year 11s of last year who got the government grades. So I was very anxious during that time, because the A-level students had got their grades a week before ours. And, you know, in the news, on social media, there was an outcry of how people were downgraded heavily. And in my personal view, when I was in year 11, my December mocks, I didn't do as well as I should have. But then in the next mock in March, I did pretty well. So I was kind of anxious to see what the teachers would grade me on, whether they'd go for my bad grades or my good grades. So it was, you know, very, very nail biting. And it came down to the last wire. Luckily for me and my friends, it was good. But in other schools, other places, you know, people were being knocked down 2 or 3 grades. So the whole exam thing, you know, was, you know, swings and roundabouts for different people, I'd say.
I'll ask Jean-Paul about examinations during the COVID period. Jean-Paul is 19, and he is currently studying popular music at the Royal Northern College of Music, and he has one younger sister. He normally spends his free time writing and performing music with his friends, and currently is writing his own music, which is uploaded to SoundCloud, and he's hoping to make a release on Spotify later this year. Jean-Paul says that the most significant thing about lockdown is the underwhelming university experience. And after lockdown, he's looking forward to be able to see friends, hopefully go out to gigs and concerts. But in a field like music, which is heavily dependent on, you know, face-to-face assessment, how is that working when you've presumably moved from the first year to the second year without proper face-to-face assessments? How do you feel? I mean, is that affecting, do you think well, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it sort of affects me like quite a bit. Again, obviously, because I'm studying music, it's a very practical course, and a lot of the modules, or some of the modules, do include having to work with other people. So yeah, essentially, there's like a social aspect to some of the modules. I think it really affected the way that the course has been run. obviously they've done their best to do to sort of come up with alternatives to do the course, but I think it's just not been the same. I've not really been able to play that much with other people, which is, you know, really important for me. And again, making contacts, being like, oh, you know, I need a bassist for this gig. Who can I choose? And, you know, I know the people in my year, but, you know, the people in the year below, because it's quite a small university, you know, everyone knows everyone, but I don't know anyone in the year below, and I don't think I'll get the chance to, really. Yeah, it's not really been great. Yeah, and looking outside of the course in terms of like the social aspect of university, that's not been great either. I've not really been able to see any of my friends. I'm not living in halls anymore. I'm living in a house with, you know, so 3 of my really close friends at uni. But my other friends that are in my class, I just don't see them. And, you know, we can't hang out. We can't do little jam sessions and stuff. It's really not been great. But yeah, those are my thoughts on it.
Well, what about you, Michaela? You're in second year, and I can only assume that in progressing from first year to second year, the standard assessments would have, you know, I don't know, been maybe by remote examination, by coursework, or by some form of assessment. I know you previously raised the issue about school, the university tuition fees haven't been adjusted to take into account this new method of delivery of education. So how do you think what's your view on that in your progression from first year to second year, and how that was managed?
Yeah, again, I think overall it's very underwhelming, and a lot of people who are now who are going to university now, like it's quite sad, because usually a lot of people look forward to it, but now its worth has kind of plummeted. Yeah, and I guess luckily for me, like my course is it's all coursework based, so yeah, I do my work and upload it, and yeah, so I can't really imagine how it's like for a lot of other people who with a lot more practical courses. Yeah, so yeah.
Okay. We just had a feedback from from someone who's a teacher on the call, who says they believe in face-to-face assessment to measure correct competence, and I guess we're where we are, not out of choice, but, you know, because of the circumstances, and presumably when circumstances change, things will go back to a more traditional way of assessment, progression, etc. So I'm going to come to the last section of this session now, because we're on COVID-19, the vaccine, and the lockdown. We all know why we have a lockdown, but it's had an effect on people's behaviors, people's mental health. Mental health consultations amongst young people are up by about 20%, and people are reporting much more, you know, stress, anxiety, depression, and that kind of a thing. So I just want to know how, in terms of well-being, how do you ensure that, you know, you're kind of trying to take care of your own well-being, and what can adults do to help you? Jean-Paul.
So I guess what I'm doing is I'm just sort of making sure that I'm keeping myself occupied with things, just in terms of like, not uni work for me kind of takes my mind off the stuff. I know it's supposed to be a bit stressful, but yeah, and I've found other things to sort of, you know, keep me mentally sane, if you will. Like I've been really practicing my piano skills, and they've got so much better through lockdown. I think In terms of what adults can do, I think I guess just making sure that the young people that you're living with are okay. I think it's really easy in lockdown to sort of stay in your own little world, and sort of stay away from people, and just to make sure that everyone's okay in your household, and make sure that you're sort of socializing in general is a really good idea.
Okay, I think Theo's having problems with the stage, so it's going to come in a bit. So I would go to Roxanne. So Roxanne, how have you been finding the lockdown in terms of schoolwork, and how you manage your time, and also how that is affecting you? Do you think you need more time to go out? Can you just talk a little bit on that?
Yeah, personally, I would say that schoolwork has been a lot recently because I guess we're not doing anything, we're not going anywhere. So it would be obvious to give us a bit of a bigger workload, especially trying to fit things in before we have exams in the summer.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't really have much to do. So I am taking lockdown very well. I guess I'm just getting stuck in work, but also just having little group Zoom sessions with friends, or just doing fun things or trying new things. I guess lockdown is the best way to find a new hobby, or discover something that you like that you never knew even existed. So yeah, I think it's been a good time to almost rediscover myself.
Okay, so I'll go to Toby and ask Toby. Toby, so what about you? How's it been for you in terms of the lockdown and looking at what you need to do to keep yourself on an even keel in terms of your mental health, being indoors and not being able to hang out with your friends? How is that for you?
I think at the start it was very hard because, you're used to seeing your friends, or I was, used to see my friends 5 times a week, then maybe 6 if we're going out on a Saturday. And then I play basketball too, so I'm very, socially driven, with people. I'm around people a lot of the time. So when lockdown happened and you're just, suddenly by yourself all of a sudden, and trying to do FaceTimes and all these little things, playing on the Xbox, but it's not really the same, not really that human contact. So it weighed pretty heavily on me. I was quite upset. But yeah, it was hard. It was very hard. That's what I can say.
So have you been able to manage that really, in terms of it being hard on you? What have you done to, get yourself out of that funk and, manage it, the whole thing?
Well, I started, taking up new hobbies. So I'm trying to learn how to edit new videos, trying to pick up different skills. And I think that kept me occupied and kept me out of my own head. I FaceTime my friends a lot more these days, just to, just stay out of your own head, really.
I'll just ask this question of Michaela. Is it the same for you? I know that Toby's in college and you are in university. How is it for you? Because I know with universities, it's usually you meet up with your friends, you go to your lectures. So how's it been for you having to work from home?
Yes, it's definitely been different, and we're just going along with it and doing whatever we can. And yeah, going back to well-being and people's mental health. Lockdown affects people in different ways, especially people who are very extroverted. That can take a big toll on their mental health. And personally for me, I mean, people who are introverted, yeah, obviously, like it can be quite a positive thing. It can be quite kind of a break for them, but a way for everyone to handle it and get through it is, again, just it's the time to focus on themselves and find new things that you like and discover yourselves. And yeah, and again, just whoever you're with in your housemates and your immediate family, just bond with them and just yeah, just try and stay positive. And yeah.
Thank you. And I can see that Theo's back.
Yeah, sorry
so
about that.
That's all right. I'm going to put it back on.
Yeah. So I guess we're talking about what you do to keep your well-being. And I'm going to move on to Toby. And I don't know if you've had a chance to tell us what you do to maintain your well-being in these times.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
Okay.
So it will be Aliu next. Yeah.
Okay.
So Aliu, how have you been managing your well-being?
I think for me, the way I've been managing my well-being is knowing when not to put too much pressure on myself. So at the start of lockdown, I really I didn't want to lose contact with friends. So I would find myself forcing myself to talk to people every day when I really needed to just spend some time with myself. And that took a toll on me. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to answer the phone. I just wanted to be by myself for a lot of the time. And I feel like this lockdown, I've been better at finding a balance between the two. So I wouldn't just be by myself for a week and then talking to everybody for a week. The most important thing for me was that I kind of bonded with my brother a bit more. So we were close, but during last lockdown, talking to each other more. We would spend time with each other, we'd play games and stuff like that. So I think it's like Michaela said, bonding with your immediate family, that kind of helped me get through the first lockdown.
Okay, thank you very much, Aliu. Now, I mean, Nikki is engaged again and has sent a message saying, I'm big on mental health. It is a massive problem before. I'm more so now to young people. So it's something that has been recognized, but I'm not sure if we're necessarily tackling it effectively. So let me just maybe take things a bit brighter. And I want to ask each and every one of you to tell me one good thing about lockdown. Maybe one opportunity that you've used, or just generally one thing that you think is good about the lockdown. I'll start with you, John Paul. What do you think?
I think just sort of having the opportunity to pick up new skills that you wouldn't have really thought about before. For me, again, like I said, my piano skills have gone so much better than they were before, and yeah, just picking up new skills, like video editing. For me, again, using social media as a way of promotion, and properly looking into that, because before I wasn't too bothered about it. I think something else I'd like to mention is is a lot of the things that have been brought to light politically through COVID. I think has been really it's been really eye-opening, especially for the whole Black Lives Matter movement. I think being brought to light because I think definitely because of lockdown. Yeah, I think that those are two really good things. Yeah, skills and the Black Lives Matter movement.
Okay, and I'll same question to you, Michaela. One good thing about lockdown.
Yeah, again, of course, just finding out new things about yourself and having the time to try out new skills. Yeah, and also I just wanted to say, a really good thing is how much I've realized how the world was very unsanitary before all of this, and how now, as we gradually get our lives back on track, like how we can't exactly go back because we need to stay sanitized and everything, and yeah.
So I'll just press you a little bit further on that. What things would you keep from this? There are lots of things which I'm going to keep from from the COVID lockdown. But what you mentioned, things being unsanitary and stuff. What kind of things are you going to take on going forward?
Well, I'm definitely I would like to keep a sanitizer on me, and being in such close contact with strangers, like when you're out shopping and everything. Not so much of that, because obviously, yeah, and I guess just keep to yourself, and obviously don't be coughing in around very closely to people. Yeah.
Yourself. Now that's interesting, because we think that because of the enforced respiratory hygiene, we haven't had a flu season this year, or 2020, 2021. Flu is pretty much been wiped out, and it's just the big fear was that we'd have a big flu hit alongside ongoing COVID, and that hasn't happened. I'll come to you in a minute, Toby. We have an offer from Nikki, I believe is a teacher, who says that their mic is not working, and and if you have any questions, they are willing to answer them. That's what I'm reading from the chat. I think my mic is working. Any questions, I'm willing to answer. That's what the comment says. And so it might be a good idea to have maybe a better insight into how schools are looking to reopen and complete this particular academic year. But we hold our thought. I'll come to you, Toby, in terms of one good thing about lockdown.
I think one good thing to come out of lockdown is I've been forced to spend a lot more time with my family, because for a year on and off we've been in this lockdown. So being forced in this house with my mum and my little brother, learned new things about them, just got closer to them, really. So that's probably the best thing that's happened in lockdown.
Okay. And Leo, same question to you.
Yeah, for me, it's been more rediscovering things that I used to do. So I used to play piano, I used to play guitar, and I kind of stopped due to academic demands. But during lockdown, I kind of picked that back up again. And also just taking time to relax and spend time with my brother. We would sit down and just watch TV together, play cards, do something, just the both of us. And I think that's been really important.
And what about you, Roxanne?
I think I am just really grateful for what I had before, and it's strange watching movies, I guess, seeing people not socially distancing, and I'm thinking, what are you doing? And then I realized that was pre-COVID time. But after this, I just want to go outside. Well, I can go outside. It's just seeing people, and I don't know, not having to, do the little elbow handshake. But yeah, I guess it's given me time to really reflect on myself and get to know myself better, and really just know who I am and how to be my most authentic self when I go to university next year.
Yeah, and those times will come. This will pass. We will all get over this, and there will be a time when this will be in the history books, and you would have lived through it. But without a doubt, this is going to pass, and we're going to get through this. So I just we're getting towards the end of the session now, and I just want to give each and every one of you a chance just to round up and give us some final thoughts as to what's the ideal going to be for you this summer and next summer. Okay, so summer 2021, what are your hopes? There will be a summer holiday. It might be the end of the school year, will there be a prom, living events, exams? What are your hopes for summer 2021 and summer 2022? So I'll start with you, Jean-Paul, in the College of Music. What are your hopes for this summer and for next summer?
Well, this might be rather optimistic, but hopefully this summer concerts and gigs are back on, because that means that we can, at least I can go out and do a load of performing. I really don't think that's going to happen, but that is a hope. I think that's realistically that would happen next summer. I think this summer just being able to see my friends, to be honest, if I'm being a bit more realistic, just see my friends and being able to go out, do things, go to pubs and stuff like that. That would be my ideal thing for this year. And then next year, just gigs and concerts.
Okay. And I'll go on to Roxanne and just remind everybody that we do have a teacher who's very eager to take your questions. And if I were you, I'd be asking about how you calculate predicted grades and those kind of things. So, but Roxanne, what are your hopes for this summer, next summer?
My hope for this summer is probably to see friends, maybe take a trip. If it's only just to, I don't know, London or a major city, it would be quite nice to not be in the area, I guess. But for next summer, I would hope, if it's not completely normal, close to back to normal, as I'd be already done my first year of university. So hopefully either a holiday to just a close European country like France or even Germany or Spain. But that's rather optimistic. We don't know how it's going to turn out in a year or so. But just stay optimistic, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, those are quite realistic options. France, Germany, and Spain currently being ravaged by coronavirus, so clearly not the time, but maybe in a year's time, maybe most of Europe might have been vaccinated at that time. Michaela, what about you? Will you be finishing university by next summer?
Yeah, I hope if it's safe enough, then finally go on a holiday as well. And of course, during lockdown, I'm sure there's a lot of people who have involuntarily started to let themselves go, and so I guess over the time when things start opening up again, then I just hope to have a whole glow up and then come out as a new person with all these new learned skills during lockdown, and yeah.
Fantastic. I do like to hear that there's optimism, and believe me, those times will come, because this is a temporary blip. If we try and think, and this has happened before, and unfortunately will happen again in the future. We will have another pandemic. Hopefully not in our lifetimes. Maybe. Toby.
I just want to be able to this year go out with friends to the beach, because that's what we had planned last summer, but COVID. So that's probably my main thing that I want to do this year.
Yeah. What about next year? What are your hopes? Hopefully by summer next year, we think everything should be back to as normal.
I think next year probably being allowed to go out on holiday, like a broad set of countries, not just Europe, like America and other places. I think that would be, really good if that was to happen.
Okay. And Leo.
I'd like to hope that this year we'll be able to travel, but I don't know if that. So I think for this year, I'd say just be able to go out, go places, travel, even if it's like around the country, like places open up for like bowling, cinemas, just have some experiences. And for next year, I would say I'd want to travel.
Okay. So we have some clapping emojis from the teacher who's I guess expressing gratitude to the way you've been able to bring out your thoughts on a variety of issues. We have some congratulatory messages coming in. May I just say, I think these young adults are commendable, picked up some good points from your discussions in order to help other young adults in the workplace. I hope you all continue to thrive despite the pandemic and wish you all success. I'm just reading one of the messages from the chat box. And I think you've all been fantastic. It's certainly shown me a whole different side of things, which we don't necessarily consider on a day-to-day basis. And you've brought out your feelings quite clearly, and to that, I'm very thankful to each and every one of you. All that remains for me at this stage is to wrap up and just remind everybody that what we're hearing from the young people today is that in terms of information, social media seems to be the primary way that people of this age consume information. And so anything which intends to reach this demographic has to take in social media. Influencers are important. You can engage them rather than letting them go AWOL and going off rogue and, posting pictures from Dubai, etc. Much better to have them pushing a hands, face, space, public health kind of message, like Dr. Alex George, who was referenced. In terms of the vaccine, I don't see vaccine hesitancy in this age group. It seems that their life experiences, despite the mistrust of the government, isn't one that is leading them to be vaccine hesitant. Quite importantly, among Black teenagers, it seems there's a strong family influence, and so if parents are vaccine hesitant and the young adults want to go ahead with vaccination, that's something that needs to be looked at, and perhaps that dynamic is managed. We're able to talk about some of the concerns about vaccination, and some of those concerns are genuine because nobody knows a lot about the vaccine. But what we do know is that the alternative is COVID, which we know a lot about, and we know that it's an awful disease which can kill you, can maim you, can paralyze your health service. And we finished by really looking at the effects on well-being, education, and social isolation, and that's profound. That's profound. I would just say one thing in that through all the time I engaged with teachers when my children were going through secondary education, and if you survey children of that age, the one thing that's uppermost on their mind that causes most stress is academic performance, anxiety. It's not clothes, it's not shopping, it's not friends, and that seems to be uniform. And that surprised me when I came across that, but that's what the surveys have said. And you can see what anxiety there is about the uncertainties regarding examinations, etc. But at the end, we all have hope. And the hope here is that we're going to all come out of this, and everybody's looking for us to, beyond the pandemic, to re-engaging socially. Once again, I thank you, each and every one of you, very much for giving us those very, very, very clear thoughts. Some more messages coming. Very impressive young people. I'm proud to be Black through your lens. So you need to take those messages on, and thank you very much. I'm going to hand you now back to Hilary, who's our host, for an overview, final comments, and I guess anyone can comment at this time. I think you're still muted, Hilary. Just unmute.
Sorry, just give me a few minutes. Okay, so thank you, everyone. for coming today. We're at the end of this session, and I really wish it didn't have to come to an end. I want to thank the young people who have come on today: Jean-Paul, Toby, Roxanne, Aliu, Michaela. Your insight into the minds of young people was really appreciated, and helping us to understand how to work with you from today on. I would also like to thank Theo for volunteering his time to have a chat on this very important issue. Our youths, having a voice. He'll be a familiar face from now on, I can tell you, as he has agreed to volunteer his spare time to support Wish BME Network. And as you all know, we are an organization that campaigns for blood and organ donation in the Black community, and we're going to be starting our campaign very soon, and hopefully we will be putting out those dates in the next few weeks. Thank you all for coming, and I hope that you've enjoyed the discussion today. And I hope that, going forward, we try as much as possible to look to actually seek the opinions of our youths, rather than just going ahead and making decisions without getting them on board. I'm hoping that, I can actually share this video with people from the Labour Party, because I'm a Labour Party member, share it with them, and, hopefully that in the future they would reach out to the youths in the Northwest, because I was talking to a few colleagues earlier this week, and they were saying that, there are youth groups that the government actually does consult. But we in the Northwest, the Black youths in the Northwest, they don't hear about it. And this just shows that, they have a voice, they have an opinion, and we do need to listen to them. So thank you again for coming out, and I hope to see you the next 2 weeks. And in the next 2 weeks, it will be another topic, but this time probably on blood donation or organ donation. So thank you again, everyone, for coming out, and I'll see you in the next 2 weeks. I will put out the information out as I do normally. So if you have any questions after this session, you can reach out to me via our email or on the website, which is coming out soon. Thank you very much.
So just one final remarks I need to say to all the panelists who've spent their Saturday afternoon with us. That I'm hoping that Hillary, on behalf of the Wish BME Network, is going to maintain contact with each and every one of you.
Of course.
There will be further occasions where we will require a voice from Black youths. And hopefully we can call on you and your time if you feel it is within your sphere to be able to help. I think what you're doing is fantastic, and hopefully this isn't the end of the association. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. And I will be reaching out to you by email soon. Okay? Thank you. Bye, everybody.